Welcome to Life in the Music Business, a master class with Professor Pooch and your host, BACEFACE.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Life in Music Business with Professor Pooch. Pooch, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine as usual. Just a typical crazy fun day of all kinds of assorted stuff. I never know what I'm going to run into.
That's the best part of the game. Keeps you on your toes at all times.
Oh yeah. Well, the worst thing for a creative person is boredom. That's the most dangerous thing, because creative people, just like they can create positive, great songs, great scripts, great videos, great anything, they can also, oh man, things couldn't get worse. So they go into all this, they focus on the negative instead of the positive.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially. I mean, you have to kind of train yourself to be in that positive mind state to be able to keep up like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like a muscle. Your imagination is a muscle, but you've got to keep, you got to keep moving. You got to keep creating, come up with a new idea. That time you wasted feeling bad for yourself, you could have written a great song. You never know. I mean,
You never know at the end of the day. I mean, it's usually when you don't want to do something that the most fruitful thing comes out of.
yeah, you just, like shake yourself out of it. My thing is, somebody's feeling down. I say, okay, you got 5 minutes. Okay. Get it all out of you, and let's have some fun, and that's all.
Yeah, it was tough for me in the beginning of the quarantine trying to adjust
Oh,
to this because, I mean, like, I at that point I had overworked myself to the literal point where I was like, I need a break from music. So I took off for like 3 months, believe it or not, just to get my sanity back. And I did things I normally wouldn't do: play video games, watch TV, just kind of distract myself a little bit and then allow myself to like relieve all that stress.
yeah, well, it probably you were thinking, oh, well, it's got to be over any day now, any day now. I
Exactly.
mean, I think most people thought that. Who thought this? I mean, I had just got back from a trip to North Carolina for a business kind of situation. We'll just leave it at that. And all of a sudden, I'm back. It's March 8th or 9th, I forget. And the next day, they announced this big announcement. And I've been basically hibernating since then.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I had just got a brand new job. I had left the other studio I worked for. I got a new job, and as soon as I got that new job, a month in, the whole quarantine thing kicked off. So it was kind of a strange coincidence, but it was good. It was a good little break to be able to reset everything. But now we're back in action.
Yep, I was waiting for you to say back to normal, but there is no, there ain't going to be that original normal. Folks, don't get upset about it, but it's never going to be that old normal. There's going to be a new normal. Just help create your own new normal. Don't
Exactly.
just let it take you along wherever it's going.
Yeah, it's tough, but I mean, that leads us to our first topic. So, I mean, what are some things that people can do to keep that positive mindset? I know that you have to be able to continuously do the work, take the action, then also keep yourself accountable and create a goals list. So how can one that's either a producer or artist like keep that positive mentality?
Well, my thing would be, okay, here's the problem. Let's look for the solution. Okay, I can't work in the studio. I'll tell I'm a producer. So I can't work with the studio with other people, but I could work, you can do things other places. I mean, there's different
Yeah.
people have their own, God, Stevie Wonder was recording remotely in the 80s, through the telephone lines. Well, there was no internet back then, but there was a web kind of a thing. I was online in 85. There was bulletin boards, so you could connect.
Yeah.
And much different than it is now. There was no internet to about 93, 94, 95. It would have just started at that point.
Yeah.
But the idea is to just think, okay, what can I do? Uh, Part of it is, well, look, I want to be ready so then when I can get out there, I'm all set. I got all my songs together. Maybe I can't do all the recording I want to do because I can't get to the studio. But there's always ways, and as people have learned, you use masks and you stay 6 feet away and you wash your paws a lot,
Hmm.
and you just keep moving. Eh, and the worst thing that could happen is people focus on the problem instead of solution. To me, that's fun. I have this sign on my wall. I am simply having fun with everything and everyone. It's like a sing-songy kind of thing.
It's self-affirmation that kind of keeps you
Yeah,
focused.
and because you can make anything into a game. Like, oh well, I can sit here and feel sorry for myself, or I could find positive things to do. Maybe create new ideas. Hey, you could have time, even if you don't have the studio, to write lyrics, words. Do a blog post. Stay on social media, keep it alive. As then with the live streaming, you could do the live streaming. They're even doing ticketed streaming. And, but create your own future. You shouldn't have to be concerned, with what's happening. Change it to what you want it to happen
Yeah.
as much as you can.
Yeah, and I feel that that is an important thing. I mean, nowadays a lot of people are really the way to say this is they're more focused on their output instead of the daily actions every day that add up. I mean, like I think we've mentioned this before, but I mean,
Good point.
I see it is that it's whether you do something positive or negative for yourself, in 6 months those actions will compound. So if you're positive and you're happy go lucky and everything is going good, then you will be basically manifesting positive energy. But if you're in the gutter and you hate yourself and you're this and you're that, then it's going to be tough for you, because then that's just only you're only going to get more of that later down the line.
Yeah, the point is that we get into quantum mechanics and physics and stuff. But if you put out low vibes, you're going to attract low vibes. If you're having fun, make it into a game. Have fun. But you made a good point. I was trying to think. I posted something on Facebook. Oh, yeah. What's really important is learning self-discipline. Now, people hate that word, so it can be replaced with self-leadership. Be your own boss. Say, okay, Pooch, as I would say, said to myself, kind of thing. And hey, Pooch, let's work on this. Let's work on that. I keep things all around me. I have a guitar. Oh, okay, I can play some guitar, write a new song. Everybody's got something they can work with. They just got their mind and creativity. And imagination is one of those things. It's like a muscle. You use it or lose it kind of thing. Just keep working on it and just let your mind go nuts. Have fun.
Yeah, and that's an important thing nowadays. But just in general, especially for me, is that my work is also my passion. So sometimes those two things intertwine with each other, and everybody sometimes the assumption comes along that, oh wow, you live the life, you're doing this, you're doing that, but people
They
don't
can do
realize,
it.
yeah, exactly, and people don't realize that also turning your passion into a career can sometimes be a little sticky in some
Scary.
spots.
It's scary to people. People are afraid of change.
Yeah,
Oh, some people just have to stay with that. "Oh, I better work a job so I have the money." But you're going to be so busy earning a living, you're not going to have time to make money. It sounds weird, but if you think about it,
yeah.
yeah. And the thing is with self leadership, give yourself a command and follow it. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, do whatever the heck you want to do.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's within your own power to create the future that you want for yourself. But all words and everything and speaking things in the universe is only as good as your action behind all the things
Yep.
that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, you can just keep thinking, and it's one thing, you're not doing anything. My thing is like one of my problems I run into, and with myself, and I'm sure other people too. I learn once I get started, say I'm not sure what I want to do, but once I get started, I get into it. It takes a little focus, willpower. That's very important. Willpower, focus, self-discipline, self-leadership, whatever you want to call it. But I found that, once you get started, then that comes next is continuation. So you keep continuing. And when you end it and finish something, you have a success. It might not be the greatest thing for what's now, but hold on to it. You never know. It's like writing a song. I had some songs taken that were like 30 years old. Songs don't change. The arrangements and productions and the recording sound changes, but the songs are still songs.
Yeah. So there's always something to do. There's always something to be on top of, and always being able to move forward and create your own future.
Well, I would hope people would create their own future, instead of just, you could follow everybody else and just, why be somebody else? Be yourself. Let's say, set a goal. And it could be, by the way, a goal is no good. Your end goal is no good unless it's at least a little bit scary. Otherwise, you're moving sideways because you already know you can do whatever it is. Set a goal that's scary. It's steps beyond what you think you can do. And don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just start working towards it and things will happen.
Yeah, it's crazy. Actually, I think I mentioned it to you. I had just purchased a new book that kind of explained all different things. It kind of keeps me focused in a way, because then I can write down. It has like a bucket list section. It has all different parts of it, basically to organize your life for the next 26 weeks, because each book is about 26 weeks worth of material. So
that's interesting.
You can stay on top of your stuff, set your priorities, your due dates. There's check marks next to it so that when you do complete something, you check it off, and it's
an accomplishment. Yeah. There's nothing better than feeling you have accomplished something. And everybody should want to set a goal of accomplishing one thing at least towards your career every day. And one thing personally for other people. One of my things is to, I like to do something special for at least one person every day. Wow. And sometimes it just is and the more you give, the more room you have to receive good. Yeah. The more good you give, it's energy. You need to put out to get back. Yeah, it's like that. But yeah, I always try to do something personal. Maybe I'll give somebody a copy of one of my books, because I think maybe they've been down. So I give them my God Didn't Create Alarm Clocks book, which is a self-empowerment book. And whatever. It's just I try to do something special for somebody every day, and it makes me feel good. I'm helping somebody. It's a great feeling, and I try to do it every single day, at least one person.
Wow, that's amazing. And I mean, over time, it's like that one gesture may seem like nothing right now, but in the full scheme of the future, I mean, that would compound over itself. If you did that one day every single year, you would have changed 365 lives every year.
Well, at least cheer them up for a few seconds that somebody was thinking about them.
Exactly. And
the more you can do for other people, the more you're doing for yourself. It's just science, folks. And we won't get into all the heavy stuff, but it's just energy.
I mean, that kind of leads into the next topic. I mean, taking that mentality and being able to, I feel like it's super, super important to have the self-awareness that you need to be able to go out into the world. And once you start networking and meeting people, you have to be in the right vibration, because as soon as you meet somebody, like Pooch says all the time, as soon as he meets you, he can tell, he doesn't know you, but he get a strong understanding of who you are within the first 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah, because it's a gut, your gut. Your gut is, boy, it gets into heavy stuff, but it keeps it simple. It's your intuition. It's one of your inner senses. And it's one of those things, I'm sure everybody, think about it, anybody, anytime you meet somebody new, don't you get an instant perception? You might be wrong a little bit, but you get a perception about somebody. They might have a bad day or too good a day that wasn't normally them. But you do get this feeling about them. But yeah, getting out in the world is important, and it's so hard nowadays. My thing is, to me, networking is just so important. The more people you meet, and I'm basically an introvert, believe it or not, but I learned to just speak and say, hi, how you doing, and get them talking about it. As long as it's about the music or film, I'm fine to keep talking. But the networking is important. The problem is with the virus, I mean, my favorite way of networking is face-to-face.
Of course.
Now, there's nothing like it, because watch the eyes. When you're speaking to somebody, look in their eyes, that says as much as the words are saying.
Mm.
See if they're with it or not with it, different feelings. I just feel it's so important. Communication is so much simpler visually than over a telephone.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is like, oh, I got myself in trouble several times when instant messaging started. I was one of the first way back, early 2000s and stuff. And somebody would ask me, somebody actually very well known asked me, how you doing, Pooch? And I said, fine, with an exclamation point, like fine. And they took it as fine. Yeah, and you need those emojis.
Yeah.
But the best way is if you're face to face, you see each other's expression. You can see I'm laughing through it. So if I don't have face to face, I do video. It's the next best thing.
Yeah, especially this COVID thing has turned everything on its head, especially.
Yeah, and you just gotta go flow with the technology. But when I'm speaking to somebody, I want to look at them. It's just so much cooler. Yeah. And also the other advantage, which my people like, clients and associates and stuff, when it's video, I can record it, because just like normally like we're recording now, and BACEFACE is doing the actual recording of it, I'm still, if you see this microphone, it's going to a sound program. So when I'm talking with people, I know I give off a ton of information. I don't want them having to sit there taking notes and stuff on how to do this and how to do that. Let's talk. And then I'll give you the audio, and maybe I'll write up something for you, the steps to take. Like with my 3-step program, I give them the actual, all right, this is step 1, do this, step 2, do this. But face-to-face networking is just so important.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard the term, it's who you know.
Of course. And also, who knows you?
That's the most important. Especially, when I see people dropping names. Oh, I know this person. I know that person. Yeah, but how well do they know you? Are you special to them?
So the one thing that I always see too is that I feel like we have to actually teach people how to network, because some people go out into the industry and they think that networking is just going up and saying, hey man, check out my music. Here's my link and this and that. And it's like, people forget that there's a human interaction, and you have to be present, and you talk to people. I mean, I've met some of the most top people in the game, and they didn't even know that I made music, because that is not something I wanted to bring up, because it's something everybody else is doing. So I wanted to bring something new to the table. And then at the end, if they mention it or something, I give them my card, but I never go out into an interaction and say, hey, I want this out of this, and go and basically like a warrior fight my way till I get them to like that, everything that I do, All
right, I'm going to go 2 ways with you on that. I agree with almost all the stuff you said in the beginning. At the same point, when you go to a meeting that is planned, like you're speaking or you're doing this, have an objective. But if it's just meeting somebody, I agree with you 100%. You want to be just, hey, how you doing? And I just act my crazy self, and I think they get a laugh out of it. So they see this crazy guy with a beard, and who the hell's that,
You have a very outgoing personality, so it's very easy to talk to you and kind of just be able to feel comfortable around you. And that's another thing too, is that if you are going into an interaction with somebody and you have an ulterior motive right off the bat, so I'm just talking about face to face. Like I'm going to meet a top. I'm in a networking event and I see a top publisher. Instead of going in there like, oh, how am I going to get over on this guy? Like people can sense your energy. So
exactly. They're going to
sure that
they're going to sense it.
Correct. Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah, and networking is just have fun with it. Let's face it, most events I go to are music or film events. So it's kind of obvious I might have something to do with one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's, the one thing that I hate talking about and I walk away from, that's why I'm not a party person. I like to learn. I like to learn about people and talk with them and learn other things. what turns me off is when people just gossip about other people.
Yeah.
It's like, get a personality. It makes me want to say, I don't say it. I just ignore them.
Yeah.
But it's about relationships, yes.
Yeah.
And you never know. Just by becoming a friend and helping each other out, I try to see what I could do for them.
Of course.
That's why I look at it as, because then, maybe they'll want to work with me on something. Who knows? You never know.
Yeah, and a lot of people that are in my corner and stuff, they're always like, oh, you just met this person, you should be giving them your music and say, hey, I do this, I do that. But for me, it's like, I see those people as people, I don't see them as what their level is in the industry or anything. So I see them as people. So I'm not the type of person to go out of my way and be like, oh yeah, by the way, I have music for you. Like if it doesn't come up, then it's not going to come up. I'm not going to force the situation, and that's something.
Well, once you make a relationship, at the end, when you're talking about, say, hey, can I send you a few songs? But don't make that the whole subject of your conversation. By the way, you brought up something very important. When you talk to people that are really successful, I've done this with people, and that is seeing how people on their way up, I might invite somebody, I've done this several times, invite somebody very well known over to my place, and we're friends or something. And I want to see how the client or associate or a singer, whomever, reacts. Now, there's going to be one of three reactions. One, they're going to be scared. Oh my God,
Yeah.
And the other one, just really the 180 degrees, overly. If you treat them like a person and just be real, that's important to me. When people meet me, all I want about them is if they're real, I'm going to feel very comfortable.
Of course. Likewise.
It's just be yourself. What's really funny, you'd think that being yourself would be the easiest thing for people to do. And it's one of the hardest for a lot of people, is being themselves, because they think something's wrong with them and all this stuff. And unless you murdered somebody, there's nothing wrong with you.
Unfortunately, it's not necessarily all the people's fault. So I will give them that, because, everything nowadays is just so negative, and there's so much negativity out there with the news. If you were to follow politics and news, you would be stressed 24/7.
The idea is, and you're right. And the idea is, what I do when I see myself getting like that, and I try not to get drawn into that stuff. But if I see myself getting drawn into it, whoa, folks, shift gears. They say, really, people should not watch the newspapers. People should not be reading this stuff, because what's happening is they always want to see bad news sells. And if you watch any news show, the evening news or whatever, I never watch that. People like to see other people suffer.
Yeah.
And that's why they watch that stuff. Believe me, if people liked happy stuff, they would program happy stuff. It's that simple.
Yeah, and that's why they're worth so much money, those big corporations, because they're instilling fear into everybody, and everybody's running around, oh my God, this happened, oh my God, that happened. And the amount of times I've heard things about the politics and different things that are hearsay, or they heard it from the media, and people don't realize that every single major corporation has an agenda for their best interest. They're not looking out for us. So you always have to know that you have to consider the source. Where is the information coming from? How credible is that information? And what is the other side of that information that could be the actual?
That's a very good point. There's so many conspiracy theories that I check them out, and they're bull. Yeah. They're total bull. They're made up. They put a bunch of non-facts together and try to lead it into a fact. It's sad that people are like this. I just want to go, help, let me out of here.
Exactly. And it's especially nowadays with everything that is so personalized for us. It's like, if you made, like, for instance, my cousin yesterday, I'd stop by his house. I was looking for a microphone or something, right? He looked it up on his phone. All of a sudden he's getting microphone ads, and he does nothing with music at all. So it's like, sometimes it's not even our fault. It's just that it's like they're choosing what they want us to see, or we're really choosing what we want to see, and they try to predict that and try to capitalize on that. So you always have to be careful. Like
There's no doubt about what you're saying. And proof of that is I use a VPN. And a VPN shows that I'm in a different city than I really am. And if I put New York, all of a sudden I'll get prices lower in New York. I mean, seriously, people get big breaks in New York. And if I said it at Dallas, I say, Dallas is doing great now for buying cars. It's hilarious. It's so cool.
And the other thing too, I feel like is important to bring up for people in general is that people don't realize that the cell phone is like an alternate reality. It is not real life. It is like an augmented reality where you can participate in it. Like if you were to shut your phone off and not have a cell phone, you would probably be more happy than you are scrolling on Instagram and Facebook. All these things are just, if Facebook were to shut down tomorrow, which would never happen, or Instagram were to shut down tomorrow, then all these people that are thriving on that one platform would lose their audience overnight. And that's why it's so important to be able to separate what you're being told compared to what you want to actually listen to and take in as part of yourself.
Well, part of that too, it's like everybody's texting everybody else. I mean, sometimes the things are important, but what happens is that's why nobody's got an attention span anymore.
Yeah.
That's why when you work with songs and you're writing songs, make sure something different keeps happening. Verse, chorus, verse, add another thing. You got to keep people's attention continuously.
I mean, that's actually an interesting thing. I actually have a question there. So, I mean, like, I always try to keep it interesting and add the ear candy to be able to do certain things. And there's a certain process that I usually have for that, like get the vocal melody and then accent it with whatever else, the ear candy stuff. But, I mean, almost all of the major label releases, I can't say all of them, but majority of them are so simple, but they are so good. I mean, where's the medium between that? I mean, as us up and coming people compared to the people that are out there already that are making the big bucks. I mean, is simplicity the key, or is it really?
Well, funny part is they say simplicity is genius. It's harder to write a simple song than it is to write a complex song. It sounds weird. It's just like people try to show how fast they can play the guitar. But to me, it's more important to play the right note in the right spot. So you have some rhythm. You need spaces for rhythm.
Yeah.
You want some simplicity. Some of it, but look, there's exceptions to every rule. Exceptions to every rule when in writing music, and songs that break every rule can still be a hit if it works. Something just work, and there's no formula for it. And what they do is the big thing nowadays is they start off with the chorus.
That's been a big.
They grab you. You have to grab the person's attention. Everybody has ADD. And if you don't grab them in the first 7 seconds, they've proven that the songs that sell the most, that stream the most, the introduction is no longer than 7 seconds. That's the maximum. There's nothing wrong with having a longer introduction, but save that for the album version or when you're on stage, you're doing a show or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what that's for. But you've got to they're going right into the hook. And what they do is keep drilling it, and the majors will promote it to hell. So even if you don't like it, it's still staying with you because there's something in there.
And what about the other question I have for you is like the one progression, it seems that is just the most overused progression of all time. I mean, it's in like, I don't know if I should get into the theory, but it's like 1-4-6 1-4-7.
No, 1-4-6-5. It's C, A minor, D, G if you put it in one key, but you can transpose the keys. And quite a lot of songs are there. It's agreed. But a lot of today I hear is just like 2 or 3 chords maximum. I lean more towards the European sound. See, my thing is I write like me, and I just lean more towards European, where they use more than 3 chords. All my songs are at least 3 chords, and way more normally. Now, it shouldn't be so hard to follow and hard to hear. It's got to make sense kind of chords, kind of the thing. And there's also things called inversions. I might play a C on the guitar up here, And then the second time around, I'll play it down here, and it sounds like a different chord. It's not. It's the same chord. It's just a different inversion, a different note in that scale is on top or on the bottom, kind of stuff like that.
Do you think that they usually go towards that progression where it's like, I mean, there's a bunch of records I could say, the Ace of Base, Beautiful Life, and
Yeah, 1-6-4-5 is the old rock and roll, and they still use the same chords.
I mean, you think that it's because it's like the most familiar to our ear? I mean, I could pick 40.
It just da, 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 da. It just keeps you going around. Da, 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 da. And it can be different notes, but it's still within that same progression because it keeps going around. But there's other ways going around. Be yourself. You don't want to be anybody else. Be yourself. Stand up. Be a Billie Eilish. Be a Muse, be a Rolling Stone, be somebody that has their own sound that you can identify immediately.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, in my opinion, there's like those top artists that come in every so often that really just change the game. I mean, one that I can think of from like the early 2000s is like System of a Down, incorporating like Armenian music with like metal, and then like later on then we have like, you know what I mean, the pop and EDM merger, and then now we have the Billie Eilish thing. So it's like I feel like it's just a continued, just history keeps repeating itself.
Well, and what some people don't know, let's take a group like the Beatles, or one of the most popular groups. It took them 7 years to make it. Let's look at Muse. Muse has won a lot of rock awards. They started in 92, I believe, and they went to school together, the 3 guys, and it took them almost 10 years. Most groups break up after 6 months, let alone 1 year. Sometimes you just got to work at it, and they just got so tight and so good. The Beatles played 7 nights a week in Germany for years. And eventually it's you either get real tight or you break up. It's if you can get along with each other that long, and if the music's that important to you, and you have the right personalities that you don't get mad at everybody every 2 seconds and just want to run away.
Yeah, and I mean their output was incredible. I mean, like, I think it was a few years ago since I was in school, but I remember, I think it was they had released between, I think it was like 6 or 12 albums within 2 years.
And that's odd because most labels nowadays don't let you do that.
No.
But if you're independent, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And Spotify's big thing is, we want to make more money, well, put out more songs. No, why don't you pay us the right amount of money for the songs we do put out? Yeah.
It's a whole mess. I mean, eventually it'll get sorted out, but in the meantime, it's kind of a sticky situation.
I hope it gets sorted out.
Especially artists. I mean, I feel bad for them because, I mean, even the people that are signed to the labels, like, they're the bottom of they're the last person to get paid, and then they get taxed because they're at a higher like tax bracket because they're made this much money. And I mean, it's all based on taking advantage of the artist. And I feel like that is the paradigm shift of this era. Is just
the artist is the low person on the totem pole. It's, the record company will pay the publisher, and the record company then recoups all the money they spent, and then they'll go to the manager. You think you get $4 million and you might get 20,000. That's what happened to one group. And you have to split it between 3 different people at that time. The one interesting aspect, there's some news that came out of Europe just recently, and let's see how far it builds and stuff. But I had talked in one of the episodes about, it depends on which order you're watching these episodes, folks, but about that in the United States, AM and FM radio pay the songwriter and publisher, but they don't pay the artist or the record company. Because those radio stations don't pay the artist or record company. When you get playing your stuff in other countries, they won't pay your artist because you're not paying their artist. Well, there's been a change, and it started in Ireland, I believe, and they're working with the European Union to start paying the artists what they're supposed to be getting. And hopefully, if the United States will follow through and do their part, and we'll pay your artists, you pay our artists. And that's one of the reasons the artists are fighting so hard in the United States since the 70s, actually, to get AM/FM radio to pay the artists and record companies. That's why Sound Exchange, which pays the artist and record company, just came about in 1995, I believe, when there first was online stuff and they make them pay. But they'd never done it with the AM/FM. But they're finally in Europe reversing some of this, and let's see how it works. You know, it's like one of those tune in for the next episode kinds of things. And we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, that's a cool thing too. I mean, that gives power back to the artist. I mean, it helps them actually be able to feel like they're being appreciated and not just taking advantage of and work to the bone. I mean, like a lot of people think it's glamorous to be an artist until they see how they have vocal practice 4 times a week. They got hair and makeup this and that day. They got this and that day, dancing that day. And I mean,
well, yeah, if you're with the major, that's true. If you're an indie, you do what you want, but you still got to take care of what needs to be taken care of.
To say, you're still going to be following in the steps of the label, just be doing it all by yourself or whoever is there supporting you. So, Pooch, what are some important things to ponder when dealing with contracts and making sure that you're protected?
Okay.
What could be specific? I mean, you could, like I said, there.
Well, let's generalize right now, and then we can get more specific when we have time to do a full show on it, because it's going to take 1 or 2 shows easily. First of all, I mean, there's certain things that pop up on every type of contract, and let's just talk about contracts in general and stuff. First of all, I must say that I talk a lot about legal and contract stuff, and I developed and taught artist development and entertainment law and publishing and stuff at the Art Institute of Philadelphia for years. But I'm not a lawyer. I'm just making that clear. I handle contracts and I teach. I've taught a lot of attorney stuff, but I'm not a lawyer. I do a lot of what they do, but don't go to court. But there's certain things to think of that you'll run into on any contract that you should be aware of. One, if you ever see the word standard on a contract, you know, you'll think, oh, this is a standard contract, I should sign it. Well, first of all, there's no such thing as a standard contract. Somewhere's in my basement, 3 floors down, 4 floors, yeah, whatever, down, I was collecting them for a while. I had 65 different publishing company contracts that said standard contract on it. It's through the years and stuff. Look, when you see the word standard, just ignore it. It might be that person or that company's standard contract. Yeah. Another thing to think about, overall general, if a person says, sign this now or the deal's off the table, run. Because there's something not only wrong with the contract, it's something wrong with the person who's giving you the contract. And by the way, that's very, very important. I keep reminding people, no matter what contract you're signing, you're not signing with a contract. You're signing a contract with a person. Yep. When I'm doing negotiations and things like that, when I'm asked to negotiate a contract, the very first thing I do is I don't look at the contract. I look at who this person is that gave my client or associate the contract. I look them up. I'd see what they say. Does it say good about them? Does it say bad about them? Does it say nothing about them? Things like that. Just remember you're signing with the person. Other little things, typical things, and you notice as I talk about law, I put it in real simple language. There's good contracts, there's bad contracts, there's dangerous contracts, there's some are just useless. Let's face it, if either side doesn't do their job, it's a useless contract. Mm-hmm. Both sides have to do their job. And you got to make sure of it. And which brings up one thing I love to throw at people. and that there are two things that are not in any contract that are very, very important. One, can you trust that person or company? I mean, can you picture a contract saying, you can trust me? It ain't going to be there. You're going to trust me with all your money and stuff. There's a thing called a power of attorney clause in every contract. And it's going to say, you're giving this manager or this label or whomever the right to negotiate for you, where you're not even seeing some of these contracts. You've got to limit those kinds of things. And not only the other kind of trust is they're probably going to be handling some of your money. So that's one of the things. Can you trust this person? The second thing it's not going to be in any contract is, can this person or company actually advance my career? They might have good intentions, or they might be ripoffs, but can they? Not, can they and will they? It's not going to be in any contract. You have to check out this person. By the way, I've been brought in by people to just sit there while they're talking and stuff, and I could read between the lines to see if this person actually knows what they're talking about. And sometimes it's hilarious. I'll tell you, where somebody says, I'm used to working in the studio. I always work with a Nev board. It's not pronounced Nev, it's pronounced Neve. And if you worked with it, there's all kinds of things like that are just,
Yeah.
But the real important thing is, can this person really advance your career? Now, look, nobody knows everything. Nobody is perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect person. It could be, let's say it's a manager, because that's almost like a marriage, and it's harder to get out of sometimes in a marriage, believe it or not. It is. And you're you're going to be this person, you're trusting them with your money, your life, your career, everything, and you can be tied up for a period of time. So you better check them out really carefully. And it's one of these other things. There's so many things. I'm just trying to think of things off the top that are just super generalized. But a big topic that's in contracts, but it's not just in contracts, it's in groups, it's in projects, it's in everything. And it's called communication. I've seen more projects fall down, break up, everything goes screwy because of either non-communication, miscommunication. In other words, both sides need to know what the other's doing. If you read between the lines in a lot of contracts, it's going to say, if I'm the manager, it's going to say, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this. And I would be thinking, if I was the artist, what are you going to do? And that's why I always have it. It's got to be both ways. We talked about the escape clause to just prevent that. But there's all kinds of ways, and it's just thinking. If you start reading a contract, read it slowly, real slowly. If you're not sure what something means, there's a problem. Because, look up, or you realize, this is above me. I need to see a Pooch, or I need to see an entertainment attorney.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, a comma in the wrong place can screw up everything. Oh, it's so funny. A lot of times, like I say, when I'm negotiating stuff, first I look up the person. The second of all, I just skim through the whole contract. And I can see if it's been cut and pasted. I can tell right away if it's written by a lawyer or not a lawyer. And some of them are just a joke. By the way, I'm often asked, what's the difference between an agreement and a contract? Well, in reality, there's not really difference. But if you want to get really specific, a contract is an enforceable agreement. There are certain things in a contract that make it enforceable. It's law covered. An agreement, if you hire me to dress in high heels and mow your lawn, and I agreed to it, and we're both sober. That's important, by the way. You have to be sober in the United States to sign a contract. Well, if we agree to it, that's what I have to do. Yeah, if I'm getting paid this or whatever the heck, that kind of thing. But, what was really funny, when I taught entertainment law, I'm sure all the students walking into the classes when I taught it, oh my God, this is going to be a horrible course. We had so much fun in the entertainment law courses because by that point in time, by the time they got me in entertainment law, they had got a good knowledge of my other courses like art development management and stuff like publishing and stuff like that, that they started knowing the business. And what we had fun doing, I would give out actual contracts that were, I call them bogus contracts, where I know there's a lot of holes and problems. And we go through it piece by piece by piece, and we negotiate up and back because there is no right or wrong. If two people agree to it, fine. So it's been a lot of fun doing those kind of classes. We have a ball.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun to teach, and it's a lot of fun, and some people come up with things I never thought of. They just, being they're creative people, they're in an art school, folks, entertainment law in an art school. And so they might go, oh, that's an interesting idea. Hey, sounds good. If it works, it works, kinds of things.
Perfect. And that's Pooch. Yeah, so those are some very important things to ponder for today's episode for everybody to just kind of soak up. It's going to probably be something new that we start just adding in here and there just to give you guys things to think about as we lead into the next episode. So Pooch, we had a fantastic episode today. We covered a lot of different topics. And
all over the place, a COVID special. Yeah, right. Tune in for the next episode, folks. Bye-bye.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks for watching. Tune in for the next episode.